My name is Ashley Torres, and I'm going to be doing an interview for part of the Her Story project. Can you introduce yourself with your name and when you graduated Trinity as well?
Of course. My name is Rochelle Andrade, and I graduated from Trinity in 2020, in May of 2023.
Okay, and then jumping into our first question, when and where were you born, and did you grow up there?
Yes. So I was born and raised in La Paz, Bolivia, and I grew up there. I moved to the US in 2018.
And then what do you remember about the home that you were raised in?
It's very different. Latin America is completely different than the US. I do have like the memories of how welcoming the country was, the culture itself, the food, and the language, and the ideas of the perceptions of how like the United States is not as how we view it back home.
And then growing up, what did you want to be? Like,
Oh, when I
at
was
what?
young.
Mhm.
Oh, when I was younger. Oof. I think I wanted to be a diplomat when I was younger. So many other things too. I wanted to be a judge, but I didn't want to go into law school.
And then what had brought you to Trinity? Was it your first choice in college?
Um, so it wasn't and it was. My cousin went to Trinity Washington University as well. She graduated in the class of 2016, and she also did international affairs like I did. So I had a little bit of background on Trinity, but I didn't go to DC. I live in Virginia and still do. So my first choices were Virginia universities. However, at the time, I was going to be considering international student for universities in Virginia. So my next pick was Trinity Washington University. They have the program that I wanted. I had the reference family that went there. So I decided to go there. And they were generous with tuition. So I was very happy to go into a very small university as well.
And then are you the first person in your family to attend college?
Uh, From my small family, yes. I'm the older daughter out of my other two sisters, so I'm the first one in my family to go to college.
And then do you feel like that impacted your college process?
I think one of the main challenges I had was being new to the United States and not having like, oh, my parents are not here, so there wasn't a lot of reference for me to understand where or what the college process was. But I was very fortunate to go to school in high school that had college counselors and many other resources that allowed me to understand better the process.
And then how would you describe your experience at Trinity?
Uh, well, I was in COVID, also Trinity, my first half of my freshman year and sophomore year. But I think I learned so much about speaking your mind and having the small classes, I think allowed me to be more expressive and take on to leadership roles and be more vocal about my ideas, which I believe are very, very helpful in the workforce. You need to be outspoken. You need to be, I don't want to say extrovert, but someone that can communicate with other people or engage. And I feel like Trinity allows or encourage that type of behavior, at least in college and on your classes, which I think it was very impactful. And I had conversations with students and friends that went to other universities, like big universities, BCU, George Mason, that didn't have that opportunity. Their schools, their classes were like 100 people, so it was easier for them to not say anything that say something because of time and the amount of people, which I think Trinity, it's a complete opposite. I had a class where there were only 5 people, and that was amazing because you get to talk, you get to be more expressive, and I feel like the university, it's so concentrated on uplifting women, which is so wonderful, and the idea of you becoming a leader, which is not always the goal for many other universities. And I think in my experience, I learned so much from it. And just having very small circles, but good circles. Like I found friends like Andrea that are still my friends to this day. And they're just great connections. Mhm.
And then did you experience any challenges at Trinity as a woman of color?
I personally don't think so. I feel like majority, at least in my class or the people I knew, majority of us were women of color. So I don't think like it felt like a challenge within the university itself because majority of us were a minority, like are minorities. I don't think that was necessarily a challenge per se, and I feel like the professors were very aware of asking about our backgrounds and what we knew and what didn't know. So I feel like being a Trinity, I didn't feel that way. Maybe because majority of us were minorities. And it just felt more, mm, I felt more engaged and more encouraged rather than seeing challenges as a woman of color in Trinity, at least during my class.
And then did you have a mentor or a role model at Trinity that kind of guided you throughout your years there?
I had Dr. Pietro Bon and I had Dr. Stalker and Dr. Cayanes. Oh, and Dr. Dr. Kraut too. I think they were like really great mentors, especially while I was in college, especially Dr. Pietro Bon. I think he was just a great role model. And I think he helped me a lot in college and explain so much more about the workforce. Like when should you apply? What should you apply? What things you should say in an interview. He helped me a lot also to study abroad, and provided me with a lot of resources. So I think he was one of my role models. And Dr. Cayenes as well. She was new from Peru. We had a lot of connections. She, I feel very relatable to her because she moved from Peru older and she already graduated and did her career but transitioned into the US. She was very helpful and I think she understood a lot about the challenges that an immigrant faces once they move to the United States. So I think those two professors were very, very impactful in my career at Trinity and in throughout like my academic time and or journey at Trinity.
So I know you said you mentioned earlier that during your freshman year that COVID had happened. How did that impact afterwards?
I think the reality is no one was prepared for COVID. And I do think it impacted me a lot in the sense of like one day I could schedule a meeting with, I think I remember vividly my economics professor. We were taking econ 102 or microeconomics. He was a great professor. I can't remember his name, but I know how he looks. Amazing man. But he knew how to explain you the material in person. He did not how to explain you the material online. So I do remember like he was so great in person. You could schedule a meeting if you could confuse about formula or anything. When COVID hit, he was very honest, and I love that he was like, I'm not a tech savvy person. So it might be challenging for me how to evaluate and how to do a lot of stuff. So he just assigned us a lot of homework, but it was a little harder for him to explain it online and compare to do it in person. And I feel like that happened with a lot of other professors as well. Um, I had an English class, and I remember the professor was like, I don't know how to manage this, how to explain certain things, or I already planned the semester in a way that it was in person and engaging with you, that now I just want you guys to do a literature review and that will be it. And we are like, oh, so no, the exercises. And she was like, well, I'm not prepared to do it online. So I feel like those were like the main challenges of like none of us knew how to accommodate to COVID. And there was still the uncertainty of like, oh, we don't know what's happening with anybody. I think one of my professors got COVID too, and he was like, yeah, canceling class all the time. Um, but that was the reality. And I feel like personally, I don't think I had the same experience as other people of going to many networking events because everything was starting still online. Trinity didn't open for a long time, and majority of my classes were still online. So that limit a lot of stuff, in my opinion. And I guess that was the main impact.
And then you said you got your degree in what again? Your major?
Oh, I major in international affairs. I did a concentration in Latin America, and I did the data analytics program at Trinity as well.
And then after receiving your undergraduate degree, what did you do after?
Oh, I, after I graduated, I worked as a kindergarten teacher, and now I'm currently working as a programs coordinator for the National Hispanic Health Foundation.
So from being a kindergarten teacher to part of the Health Foundation, where did that come from? Like, how did you get there?
Oh, well, from being a teacher, that was a job I did during college, and I was doing more of the administrative part while I was in college. But I did my last semester abroad, so I wasn't at Trinity, so I came back from abroad. And my previous boss was like, "Would you like to be a teacher?" And I was like, "You know what? I don't want to look for a job, so let me just do that." But I was being a teacher. I started looking for jobs, and actually, um, I met someone that was from Trinity. Her name was Carla, and she did public health, and now she's going to do her master's too in public health. Um, she was the one that was like, I think you will like this role. You should apply. They just opened a role as a program coordinator for this organization that she was an intern on. So I applied and I really, really, really like it. But yeah, it was through Trinity's sister that I learned about this job.
And then what professional accomplishments are you most proud of?
Ooh. Mm, I think I'm very proud of my current role and all the things that I got to accomplish. I learned so much more about the politics of Washington, D.C. and how I learned so much in this role. And I think I'm very, very proud of the accomplishments that I made. Getting to know more of politicians in the Hill and getting to know more about the politicians in California and other states and helping uplift communities like us. That's my main role. Helping find more underserved communities to be part of the health industry, like physicians, doctors, and I've seen like, how much underrepresented we are in the field and the need for organizations like this to uplift underserved communities like the Hispanic community. Mhm.
And then what personal accomplishments are you most proud of?
Moving to the US. I think that it's my most proud accomplishment in adapting to the culture of the US. Being 16 and about to be 17 and just trying to code switch everything that I learned to that point into a new culture and how different it's the application process in college that I am very proud that I got to learn it and overcome the challenges that came with it.
And then what type of legacy do you want to leave behind?
What's the legacy I want to leave behind? That, well, that everything is possible. And I've seen it with my little sister where she felt very hesitant of college and how to get there. And seeing my story and the places I've been, the things that I've gone through, and the challenges that I have overcome have allowed her to have an easier path, which I believe it's the first step to encourage like the generations to come to be part of the higher education community, especially new immigrants who happen to be very disencouraged, and especially when you're undocumented at the beginning or you're undocumented, that it's not something that many students see as possible. And I got very lucky to overcome that challenge. And that's the legacy that I want to leave behind, that everything is really possible. The opportunities are there. It's hard work. Nothing is easy unless it's given. Um, but I believe that with a good support system and good mentors, you can get there.
And then what do you think the world needs to know about Trinity?
That's a great school. I think the world needs to know that it's a really great school. I feel like Trinity is very underlooked by the other big universities in DC. But people need to know that Trinity has so much to offer. They really, really uplift women, and they really are concentrated of providing you good education with very small classes, which you really don't get in big universities. And I also want to praise that the university cares so much about the students, about like most universities, or not most, but I will say, yeah, most or a lot of universities don't care to provide the resources to students like Trinity does. They're very generous about scholarships, which is the main challenge that most people face. Most people don't want to pay for college, and that's the main challenge that they see. So having like universities like Trinity that put the student as a priority instead of the business of it, I think that's something that people need to know more about the university.
And then what do you think the world needs to know about Trinity alumni?
That they're everywhere. I feel like not a lot of people know that so many people that work in the government per se have been to Trinity, either for their undergrad or their master's degree. And that alumni class has been very active, and even during my time, we have shown the pride of being part of Trinity.
And then what is one piece of advice that you would like to give to current or future Trinity students?
Don't get discouraged. Network, network, network. And since Trinity is such a small university, create clubs, be involved, network, and don't be afraid to speak. The best place you're gonna find to speak more your mind will be at Trinity because the platforms are really open.
And then what do you hope current and future Trinity students will be doing forward to preserve the university's legacy?
Uh, I do hope that they continue to remember what were the opportunities that Trinity gave them from the beginning and not overlook them. I've seen a pattern of like well, not many, but some students of forgetting forgetting how much Trinity has given it to them and overlook that aspect of their lives. So I do hope they remember all the opportunities that Trinity has given them and not to take them for granted because a lot of people or other universities will not give you that.
And then is there anything else you'd like to add or comment on before we end the interview?
Uh, just to remember that universities like Trinity don't exist anymore. So remembering that it's something that we need to hold dearly. There are not many universities that will think about the woman. There are not many universities that will think about the student first before the business. And we need to remember those things because they are not common things. They're not something that happens everywhere in the US or in the world. They're rare universities with a rare mission, but they're very important and crucial that we need to remember and uplift.
And then
That's my main comment.
and then that's everything for today. I want to thank you for accepting our invitation to do this interview for us.
Of
And
course.
yeah, that's it.
And thank you. And if you guys need anything, please feel free to email me. I will be sending you my personal email if you guys ever need it. And if you need anything, just feel free to reach out.
And then also I wanted to ask about, well, this is aside from the interview. This is just like
Of course.
a wondering question. So for I see like your name, you have like the National Hispanic Health Foundation.
I'm using my work computer because I didn't charge my personal. So I
And
think
then
it's linked.
I was wondering like what exactly do you do?
But yeah, I work for the National Hispanic Foundation, but I'm the lead for the programs that we have. So my role is to lead our leadership fellowship, our scholarship program, and our mentorship. For the leadership fellowship program, it's fellowship, but it's only targeted to Hispanic physicians, practicing physicians. We only take physicians that are on their fifth or more years of career. Majority of my fellows are from California, some of them, but last year they were more diverse from all over the US. We work with Centene, which is one of the largest corporate providers in California. So they are the sponsors for this fellowship to bring them more Hispanics into the medical field. So that's my job. Um, the other program that I lead is with the United Healthcare to provide scholarships and mentorship programs for students in medical, pharmacists, dental, public health, what else? Oh, physician assistants, students, and be part of the workforce by providing them a mentor, which is a practicing healthcare professional, and providing them as well financial support and the connections of the United Healthcare.
That's a lot.
That's my role. Yeah. Well, that's my role.
And then you said you were a kindergarten teacher while you were at Trinity, right?
Uh, I worked in a private school while I was in Trinity. And I was friends with the owner, and during college, I will help more of like the administrative part. Um, the operation, I will help, I was literally the assistant of the operations manager. And once I finished that, I got a scholarship to go and live in Barcelona. So I was like, oh, I'm living. So I did that for like January up to June. Came back, and the owner of the school was like, "Hey, Raj, do you wanna be a teacher for me because I need a kindergarten teacher?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be happy to do it." And I've been working here for a long time. I know the kids, I know everybody else in here, so I did that for a year.
And
So
then was that year during your last year of Trinity?
that was after I graduated from
Oh,
Trinity.
after. Okay.
Because I graduated in it's June of 2023.
All right.
hmm
I think that's everything.
Of course. And if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. You have my work email, but I will be sending you my personal email as well.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good rest of
No
your day.
problem. Bye.